Hi, Jen. Good to be here.
Good to
So just
meet you.
thanks. So do you want me to share a little bit about myself?
I do. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Sarah?
So I am in my mid 60s, and I share that first off because it's a really important time of my life. I've been married, I've raised 4 children, I've been an at-home mom, and in throughout it all, I've been a pilgrim on sacred pilgrimage paths. I'm a walker. I walk every day. I'm a certified life coach. I'm a spiritual seeker. And I'm someone who, as immersed as I've been in that dailiness of life with raising children and all that, I've also been someone who is a visionary and looks to the bigger picture and has a higher perspective. And it's from that place that I chose to walk the Camino, which then led me to walking in Cornwall, which then led me to become aware of no matter how straight a line we were walking, it's always a spiral path. And so that's been such a core piece of my work. And so what I feel that who I am and who I'm becoming is the guide, the one who invites others onto the spiral path through deep inner work, through actually physically walking on the landscape, through walking in a park near your home, on the streets near your home. We can all connect in and walk a path and walk for ourselves and for our own inner awareness and our own inner balance. So I feel like that's a lot of what I bring, just in who I am.
Well, and you have this really wonderful way of talking about the spiral path. Would you like to share just a few words about what you think the spiral path is?
For me, it's the path within the path. We can think that we're heading from where I am here to where I'm going. And we may get to that destination, even on the spiral path, but that spiral path is that flow of the energy that's going to take us into ourselves and take us out. It's going to take us over here and bring us back over there. It's like it may weave in and out of that straight line, but it's where the journey of life, the journey of growth, the soul journey always has its twists and turns, and we can deepen in and we can emerge back out. And so for me, it's been that recognition that even that part of me that wants it to be linear and wants it to be straightforward, right? And just like, of course, it's just going to be simple. There's always the complexity and the beauty of being willing to go where the path wants to take me, because that to me, I'm feeling this is where the gifts really are. That's where the magic is. That's where we can open up into what we don't know that we don't know. And we get to experience the magic and the wonder and open ourselves up to something far greater than we could have ever imagined if we had just stayed on the tried and true path.
And you write about this in the Fierce Awakenings book. You write about that path and how it circled back over and over again. Tell us a
As
little
much as I
about.
try to stay on the straight path.
That's right. Because it just bent you back all the time inwards, right? And all the time back around. Tell us why you chose that story as the
Yeah.
Fierce Awakening to share. Why does it matter? Like, what did it mean to you to write that story?
That's a really good question. For me, it was a letting go of what I thought with that external destination, that goal. Because I think we're taught to be very goal oriented and have those, those places where we want to get or what we're creating. And what happened on the journey that I share about is that even though I kind of had a willfulness to go forward, I literally was pulled back. And I was pulled back to these 25 miles of paths for 7 years, like year of like tiny little area on the earth. And it was in the surrendering to that and in the listening to that and the honoring of that. That's where my life deepened and shifted, and I became much more embodied in who I am. And so that's why I wrote about it, because I feel like we all have a center within us that if we can surrender into it, we can listen to it, we can honor that within us, we can create a life that's an expression of something that's so unique to who we each are. Like I have like we each get to create beauty in the world, and for each of us it's different. And for me, it's like when we create that beauty from within, from our core, and express that out, that's where we create heaven on earth. That's where we just get to create a world that's right side up, and that we're each living not only true to ourselves, because I guess what I feel is that in living true to ourselves, we're also living in honoring of other humans all around us. And so to me, there's just this, it's a surrendering to something that is so innate and so within us, but it takes that courage to recognize and be willing to surrender to it. I don't know if that answered your question, but yeah.
Beautifully. Yes, beautifully. And it's so reflective in your chapter, right? This years of like, you're always coming back, right? And you just at one moment had to surrender. How did it feel to surrender to that and let go of the linear direction that you were pulling yourself into?
Yeah, that's a good question. I tend to have an idea, right? And I know that I was very disappointed. I was sad when I was pulled off the path, because I'm like, but no, this is what I'm doing, and this is where I'm going. Kind of like that masculine side of me of like, no, I have a plan. This is what the plan's supposed to look like. What do you mean? What do you mean? And it wasn't in the moment of being pulled off, I'm like, oh, I get it. This is what's happening. It was like, darn it. Like, I'm not getting to fulfill the plan that I was so completely immersed in. So there was a sadness and a reluctance and oh, have I failed? Did I fail to walk this pilgrimage that I had set out for myself? And so it was even a journey to surrender into it and to allow it to become what it was wanting to become, and in the sense to get out of the way, to get out of my own ideas and my own projections and my own what I thought it would look like, and go, oh, what if it wants to look like something very different? Am I willing to surrender to that? And even at the beginning, it was very much a journey of, okay, I'm walking from this point to this stone circle. And okay, so it's in this small area, but it still didn't really have a context, or I guess what I'm trying to say is, over the 7 years of walking, these sacred sites developed into a map, into a pathway, that had a much deeper context and meaning. And if I had just kind of blazed on by, I would have never received the gifts of which each of these sacred sites became in relationship with me, because I would have just been so focused on getting to the goal. And instead, what emerged out of these 7 years of deep walking was a map into our feminine essence, into our feminine soul, through walking the external landscape. I could have completely missed that. I could have just and still been wondering, so why am I here and what am I here to do? Not realizing it was here all the time, but I just needed to slow down and receive and experience and get into deep relationship with the path and with these places, which of course was then into much deeper relationship with me, of course.
I love that you say that, Sarah, because I feel like so many of us have kind of lost our own path because we've been on the path that we thought we should be on, and we've missed some of the milestones, or we've missed some of the markers in the road, right? So kind of using your experience on the spiral path, on taking these sacred pauses to do the deep walking, how do you hope other women connect to this idea? And how do you what's the ripple you want to send out to other women who are also in the same moment of struggle, right? The same moment of choosing the next step and kind of going around the bend and not really sure what's there. What one piece of advice would you give to them?
I think what I would love for women to receive is that as women, we are very relational beings. That's how we're wired. And so for me, I was a wife, a mother of 4 kids that were spread out over 12 years. I lived near my mother. I lived near my brother and his family. So my life was very much about family, right? And my roles in my life. And while I loved that, there was this part of me that wanted something different, but it was very hard to acknowledge that part of me, because for me to go off and walk, whether it was the Camino or the spiral path, I had to leave my family for a certain amount of time. And that wasn't always well received. It wasn't supported. My husband supported it, but it also caused some negative ripples. But how could I, in the midst of that, still choose me and still honor my roles and my relationships? And so that's, I think for women, we have to realize there is who we are in relationship, but there's also who we are in relationship to ourselves. And we often, our relationship to ourselves is what we sacrifice, right? And so for me, I think part of it is that how do we get to have, like, in some ways, I guess you could say, have it all, be it all. But I really believe that as women, we have to source our own well. We have to be our own well so that we actually have something to give that's beyond what we should be, what we should do, how we should mother, how we should be a wife. Because then for me, what is I get to then bring myself, my true self, my source self to the relationship, which is much more real, much more authentic, much more actually real love than a should love of how it should look. Not that this hasn't been without challenge to get to this place, but my whole, the core of my core in the center of this spiral is deepening in love. How can I be more love? How can I express more love? How can I actually love someone that I can allow them to be themselves fully, whether or not I understand or agree? And I think that for me, that's what I want women to know. We are the relationship holders. And how do we begin with or come back to our relationship with self so that we can be an even deeper, more authentic relationship with others? And I think, yeah, is there anything else I want to say there? I think it's honoring who we are and how we're wired, and that, God, what we have to bring to others and our loved ones can be so deeply sourced, and that we have to be willing to step out sometimes of our roles and what we've set up and take a risk to, it doesn't have to be to walk a pilgrimage. It's whatever your soul is calling you to do. It could be to paint a painting. It could be to go and dance. I don't know, right? But having the courage to say, I want to dance, or I want to paint, or I want to walk. And even if it's sometimes a little bit inconvenient for those around you.
Off the
Especially
cuff
when.
here. Off the cuff. 5 words or 5 qualities that you think it takes to walk the spiral path.
Desire, willingness, surrender, trust. There's one more. Trying to think what that quality is. It's about opening up to something greater than yourself. It's an openness. Yeah.
want you to repeat these words. Dear reader, if there's one thing I hope you get from reading my story, it's this.
Dear reader, if there's one thing that I hope you get from reading this story, my story, it is that you know that there is your spiral path that is waiting for you and inviting you to step onto it. It may be one or two steps, but that it's there to hold you, to receive you, to love you as you say yes to yourself. And that whether you see it, whether you believe it, it's there for you. It's here for you. And it really is, as I say, it's yours for the asking. And that's where the desire comes in. You have to desire something for yourself and trust in that desire, because in that opens up. Like, it's like, what is it when you can't expect it to be there, but you have to take the leap, and then whatever is there to catch you will catch you. I'm not saying that well at all, but that's what the spiral path is. It's like the basket to catch you and hold you. When you take that step into saying yes to you, however big or however small that yes is, it doesn't matter. That's not what's important. It's just that you feel that desire and you say yes. Yes. And there it is. There it is.
One last spontaneous question.
I love spontaneous questions.
What is the one, you've answered this in a few different ways, but as we send our readers off, what is one next step that you would like them to take?
Oh, good question, Jen. The one next step I would like my readers to take is to pause. It could be a pause of going for a walk out in nature. It could be a pause in the middle of cooking dinner in the kitchen and just taking a moment to just pause and just for even a split second or a moment or a few minutes to drop in and, what am I feeling? What am I feeling in my heart? What's here? And sometimes that may even be too much, because I know we do get very caught up, right, in what's happening in our external lives. But that pause can be a pregnant pause, right? And it can, you like, as you've shared, when you receive a vision, it can happen in a moment, or a longing to dance. Like, it doesn't, like, I guess it's like it's a seed. It's just all it has to be is a seed, and to just recognize the seed. You don't even have to do anything with it, but if you recognize that seed, it can take into its soil and it can grow. So yeah, I think that's what it is, because it has to start with that awareness, right? And it's that moment, it's that pause. Yeah.
Any last parting words? Ideas, thoughts, suggestions, feelings, sensations, knowing, any word you want to put around that?
It can feel scary or daunting to take even a baby step for you, especially if you haven't allowed that for yourself yet, right? And even if you have, taking the next step is still the next step, and it's into the unknown. I guess what I want to share is trust that next step. Trust the guidance, trust the impulse, trust that the spiral path is there. And you'll only be taken on the path as far as you're willing to go because you're at choice. You're a sovereign being who's choosing this. And there is also the element at the same time as that, is you are stepping into the unknown, tiny step or more, and to actually allow that unknown may offer you more joy, more happiness, more love, more fulfillment than you ever dreamed possible. And what if this is what opens you up and aligns you with such a deep soul fulfillment, and you get to say, this is why I'm here, this is who I get to be. And it's because you took that moment, you took that next step, even if you were feeling scared, even if you weren't feeling scared, but you chose to take that next step. And there's all of us sisters who are here with you, because we're each taking that next step. However, we're doing individually and alone or in collective, we're all here doing this together. Just remember that. Yeah.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Jen. Yeah.